Hey y'all, it's Leia speaking, and I just wanted to get on here and do a little mid-season review type thing of Succession. What I had originally wanted to do was review each episode, but then that kept not happening. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do a mid-season review, talk about my thoughts on all of the episodes so far. And I think from this point on, I'm gonna try to do a review of each episode as they come out, because the stakes are raising and I can't do a bunch at a time because that's gonna be too much. So I'm gonna talk about each episode as they come on until our beloved show is over. So let's get into what has happened so far this season. And obviously the main thing, the big thing, is Shiv is pregnant. No, I'm kidding. Even though that is unironically a big thing that's happening. But yeah, Logan died. And I know that most of us, at least like that the main opinion that I've seen throughout the internet, most people thought he was gonna die as like a season finale type thing. And it was gonna be this like grand thing where like he dies, the successor is named, yada yada, whatever. But no, they got that shit out of the way in the third episode. They were like, he's done. Yeah, I cried. I definitely cried. Sarah Snook, please come get your Emmy. The way that she was able to just like encapsulate, they all did this really, all of the actors. But I think Sarah Snook's performance stood out to me the most. But the way that she was just able to encapsulate being reduced to a child again. Like when she was on the phone call with Logan and she calls him daddy, that like even talking about it now, I'm like unironically getting teared up because that was just like that was such like a moving performance. And I was like, that was just crazy. And then there were all these interviews and stuff coming out about like shooting that scene and how she would just snap out of it immediately. Like, girl, come get your fucking Emmy. And then when you think about the fact that she has to do that in an accent that's like not that's not hers, and then also has to deliver this like heartbreaking performance of this adult woman who throughout the series has shown to be like this snarky bitch and like never wants to let her guard down, and she's supposed to portray that all of that just crashing down, and she's just reduced to this child, and she does that with like, ugh, that was crazy. And the scene with her and Kendall holding hands and they go to tell Connor. And the line that like sticks out to me the most from that episode is after Shiv first finds out. She's like, I can't have that. that that line is just, it's so funny and tragic at the same time because you can kind of see her still trying to like put up the fight of like having the walls up and still being kind of like the businesswoman she puts on this front of being, and then immediately within the next few lines that's just gone and she's just like, daddy, like I need you to be here. That episode was, I'm unironically tearing up right now, like still thinking about it. That episode was amazing. It was heartbreaking. And I honestly think the choice to kill off Logan that early in the season was the right choice, because now we can focus on what the show is about, and that is the succession. And now the rat race has really started, and we see that unfolding in the following episodes. Fuck it, we see it in the episode itself. Moments after he's died, we see Carolina, Hugo, Frank, we see them start to draft a statement, and the kids like bristle when they hear that, and they're like, no, we're the ones who are supposed to be drafting the statement. Automatically that power struggle starts to happen because it's like, okay, the head of the snake is gone, like where do we go from here? And you immediately see the two factions forming between the old guard and, I want to call them the new guard. They're like the spoiled guard, I guess. The old guard and the spoiled guard. So now the show really is all about succession. And funnily enough, that word takes on a whole new layer of meaning because guess who's pregnant now? She let a gay man impregnate her. That's crazy. That's crazy that she did that. But no, she's pregnant and she has not told Tom yet. She has not told Tom, and they've spoken many times. And it's funny because at Logan's wake, in the stair scene, you can see Tom clearly trying to reconnect with her. But you know, like that Shiv that we got when her father died, like that Shiv is gone. Her walls are back up immediately. She brushes him off. She just delivers the coldest lines. And I love it so much. But then I also love how like in that same episode, that's the one where like Kendall and Roman decided like they're gonna be the ones who are gonna be like the co-CEOs for the time being. And right after she finds that out, she falls. She trips and falls. And there are people online, they were being so stupid. They were pissing me off, actually. They were like, oh no, I hope something doesn't happen to the baby. I'm like, she didn't fall down a whole flight of stairs. She fell down one little step. And I feel like the writers didn't put that in there to make it be like, oh, is she gonna lose the baby? I think they just put that in there to amplify the moment of how embarrassed and how little she felt, because she puts on this whole bravado of, I'm Shiv Roy, I can do whatever I want. I can waltz into this company that I've had like no part in for the better part of like my adult life so far, and I'm gonna be the CEO. And this tracks because her whole life she's been given everything she's ever wanted. But in that moment, she realizes that there are things bigger than her, and I think the fall is just used to amplify that feeling. And Kendall and Roman just shut her down, and they're gonna be the co-CEOs, the CE bros as they've been dubbed. And there was a lot of discourse about that. A lot of people were like, oh, misogyny. And although I think misogyny definitely colored their decision, I think the main reason why they did that, it wasn't even them, it was Kendall. I think Kendall, we see this already. Like, Kendall has no intention of sharing that CEO chair for the long term. Like, Roman, buddy, your days are numbered. What I think happened is Kendall knows that Shiv is more outspoken. She's the more defiant one. And we've seen that all throughout the show. And we saw it even earlier in the season in the karaoke scene when she was yelling at her father and just ripping into him. And it's funny because the other person who was also on her side in that moment was Kendall. He's fine with her being defiant and speaking against authority if it's furthering his agenda, but the moment that could be used against him, he shuts it all down by not even allowing her a chance to get into the top spot, because he knows that she'll be the one to stand up to him. Like, if he's the new Logan, which hint hint, nudge nudge, that's what's gonna happen, she's gonna be the one to fight him. Whereas Roman, in that same karaoke scene, he was the one who was quiet the whole time. He wasn't standing up for himself, he was making excuses for his father, and he was the one who went back to his father. Kendall knows that Roman is easier to control, and we see that because at the end of the episode, right after they become the co-CEOs, he goes behind his back and he tells Hugo to run the negative story about their father, and we see that little fucking smirk because the dark Kendall is back. And I just think that's so hilarious because not even like 10 minutes as him and his brother are CEOs, Kendall is already undermining him because Kendall has no intention of sharing that seat with his brother for the long term. And I think that's the true reason why he cut Shiv off immediately, because he knew that if he let her stay around for too long, she would become a problem. So he was like, she can't even get a taste of what it's like. Shiv, you don't. And honestly, the reasoning was there. Like, yeah, sure, there probably was misogyny in it. I'm not gonna say that Waystar Royco is not a misogynistic company, but also like Shiva didn't make it easy on herself because she really does not have that much experience in the company. And when all the way back in season 2, I think it was, when Logan tried to tell her, you need to get experience, you need to do this 3-year program, she was like, no, I don't want to do it, and threw a fit. And it's like, okay, well, now let's go back to bite you in the ass. Although ultimately I don't think that would have even changed the outcome because Kendall was dead set on doing what he's doing, and we see that on full fucking display in the opening of the 5th episode. I want to talk about this episode in particular, mainly because it's the most recent episode and also because it's a trip episode. And Succession trip episodes, they're interesting because they always end up feeling like bottle episodes despite all the space and grandeur that's shown. Like, all of the locations they go to, it's so big and luxurious, but they always feel like so suffocating at the same time. But with this episode in particular, we really get to see where everyone is at, both mentally and emotionally, following the recent events. And we start immediately in the first scene with our top G, Kendall. Boss bitch Kendall is back. We start this episode with him in a taxi, listening to hip hop, hyping himself up. And I love this scene so much because it is such a callback to season 1. When we first saw the douchebag Kendall, who's like, I'm on top of the world. He's back. He's back. And guess what else we see? We see Power Walk Kendall back, which we saw in the trailer. And I was nervous because I thought, because like obviously they faked this out with some parts in the trailer. Like, they included so many scenes of Logan that were not in the show at all because that nigga dies. Like, okay, alright. But no, the Power Walk scene in the trailer, that was real, and we get it. And we know that he's up and he's rolling, baby. And for half a second, I unironically thought I might have clicked on the wrong episode. I was like, wait, no, I'm in season 1. And then I paused and it's like, no, season 4. I'm like, wait. So these are all of the really overt ways that we see Kendall getting back to his old ways, but something subtle that I noticed about this episode, when he was talking with Roman, he was like, "Can Pinky dance?" And I do not like that he used Logan's nickname for Shiv while actively excluding her. "Oh, like you bitch," like, "Oh, you bitch, you better not say that again." And I just feel like the use of the nickname in particular kind of shows how much Kendall is still like hanging on to wanting to be like his father. Like, in a way, it's like a cheap imitation, but also even using that nickname shows that he actually is like his father, because he will be cruel and he will use emotions in a cruel and twisted way when talking to and about people. And they have no problem using emotional manipulation as a means to an end. And we just saw that with the karaoke scene, and now we're seeing it again. Kendall doing it when talking about Shiv to Roman, who he knows is the only sibling who's actually trying to hold on to the family dynamic. "Kendall, we see you. You're not low. We know what you're doing." But no, aside from that, this episode was also interesting because you get to see the kids' business acumen, like, without their father. We see the kids come back to the Gojo deal, and we get to see how they are as negotiators in a real deal, where it's not just them trying to like piss off their dad and mindlessly bid on a company they have no interest in just so he can't have it. They are actually responsible for $1 billion company this time and have to make rational decisions. And they do poorly. They do not do well. From the first time they meet Madsen, he just starts talking circles around them. And I think part of it is because, like, you know, they're in his domain, he's not in their domain, so obviously he's going to be more comfortable. But it's like, you can just, how snarky he is from the moment that they meet in the lobby. He's like, "Oh, you brought your whole posse and I'm just me." And it's like, okay, but you literally had them come out to your country, you bitch. Throughout the whole episode, I was waiting for them to like meet him at his level, meet their snarkiness, but they didn't. They did not do good in the negotiations at all. Madsen is just stringing them along all episode. He's being rude to their faces, making jokes at their expense. He calls them a tribute band, and I just know that had to sting, because it's true. Because this is their first time we see them trying to close the deal without their father, and the first thing that happens is they get reminded that they're not their father. And then to make it worse, after jerking them around the whole weekend, pause, but after doing that and pushing them to their limit, they're like, "Fuck this, we're gonna take the deal, we're not gonna sell our company to this guy." He comes in with an offer that they literally cannot refuse, and their sister is in on it. So yeah, in their first negotiation post Logan, the CE bros took a fat fucking L. But something that was really revealing was that Kendall didn't lose his cool, which I think, once again, is a stark contrast to season 1, because when a similar thing happens to him and the guy from Walter is rude as fuck to him, he responds in a very emotional way, but he keeps his temper throughout the whole episode. And when he finds out towards the end that, like, you know, you fucked yourself over, he's still calm. And I feel like that shows growth, and that shows him further going down the dark path. Because he's not this like emotional, irrational guy that he was in the first season, however many years ago. I don't know what the timeline of Succession is actually. I never thought about that actually. I don't know when all this is happening. I know that it's been a while because I know that they celebrated Logan's birthday more than once. So it's been over a year. So I guess a year is like a long enough time to like fundamentally change as a person. But no, he keeps his cool throughout the episode. Even though Madsen is taking pot shots at him and his family, he doesn't back down. And I do think that does show a lot of growth. And it shows that he's not just inheriting the bad parts of Logan, but he actually is inheriting some of the business acumen. Even though he did like unironically lose, if you want to think about it in that binary way, he is still making progress. And also, in the season 6 preview, I don't think he's gonna take this line down. What is it? In the season 6 preview, they said he has a gleam in his eye, and you see him with another like fucking smirk. So it's like, what does this man have up his sleeve? Like, this is not the same Kendall we were dealing with in season 1. He's been through so much, and I just think now he is so determined to win that nothing is gonna get in his way. So we will see. But aside from that, another thing that I wanted to touch on with the Madsen episode, what the fuck is up with Roman? Roman is like not okay, like at all, in any way, shape, or form. His blow up at Madsen, everyone online was talking about it, everyone on Twitter, everyone on Reddit, they were like, yeah, good for him. And I'm sure that it was very cathartic for him. But the things that stood out to me, kind of similar with the things that stood out to me with Kendo, it was like the smaller things that I was noticing. Like, why does it seem like Roman is always popping pills? Why Why do I feel like he's always popping something? And why have we not addressed it? Like, I know that, like, the show takes careful time to, like, talk about Kendall's addiction, but Roman definitely has something going on that has only been alluded to, but not been addressed. And that's very concerning. Romulus, what are you doing? Romulus, let's stop taking pills. Let's calm down. And then something else that really stood out to me was the moment in the elevator where they were going. I don't know where they were going, but Connor sends Roman the photo of, like, their father being embalmed, and he just has such a visceral reaction to it. And I honestly think that's probably what contributed to his blow up at Madsen on the mountain. And what he says in the blow up, he's like, in me, I'm dead. I am gone. And I'm just like, Succession writers, be real with me. What are you hinting at? What's going on with Roman? Guys, I don't know if he's gonna make it to the end of the season. I'm not gonna hold you. I do not know if he's gonna make it to the end of the season. It's getting very concerning. And it's weird that, like, it just hasn't been addressed. Maybe it's gonna be addressed in the next episode, but we need to talk about Roman. Somebody needs to take, like, does he have any, like, outside of his siblings? I don't think he has anybody, because he ran back to his dad and then boom, his dad dies. Ken is firmly focused on the CEO seat, and Shiv is just doing fuck all. Jerry basically told him to fuck off, rightfully so. Like, I don't think it should be her job to, like, save him. But who does he have to, like, keep him straight? Shiv has Tom, kinda. Ken has, well, even though he forgets, he does have his own family. He does have kids in his own family. But he also has Stewie. Who does Roman have, like, actually? It's getting very concerning. And throughout the episode, we can just see him, like, still trying to, like, honor his father, which I think is, like, so heartbreaking but noble at the same time. Like, when Madsen wants to include ATN in the deal, he's like, no, this was dad's dying wish. And she's just like, just get a sweater of his, it's less racist. Which is also a callback to season 1 when Logan had this stroke and Roman unironically asked for a sweater. Succession writers, I see what you're doing. You're not low. So yeah, Roman's not okay, and I hope that gets addressed sooner rather than later, because I don't think any more boys need to die. I think we're done with that, actually. So I watched the episode preview for episode 6. Something that I noticed was, okay, let me back up. So when Shiv did the whole thing where it seems as if her and Madsen are aligning, a lot of people were like, Shiv's so fucking stupid. She doesn't realize that Madsen is playing her. He's not really going to be an ally to her. He just wants to use her and will, like, throw her away once the deal is done. First of all, how stupid do you guys think Shiv is? I unironically think this is where her background in politics can really come in handy, which is why I think it's stupid that Ken is trying so hard to ice her out. Her political background, I think, can be very, very incredibly valuable to the company, and icing her out will just scorn her like we see in this episode. And I don't know why people think Shiv is so dumb to not be able to tell when somebody's bullshitting her. Shiv's issue has always been that she thinks she's smarter than she is, but that doesn't mean that she's just dumb outright. She is smart, and I just have a hard time believing that a woman whose background was in politics for many years would not be able to tell when someone is bullshitting her or just telling her what she wants to hear to get him on her side. And the preview for episode 6, I feel like, is hinting at that. We see her with this, like, weird little look over her shoulder after Madsen is speaking to her. And, like, Shiv's not fucking dumb. And unironically, if they did this, I think this would be like character assassination. I do not think the writers are gonna have her be blindsided by Madsen. She knows what she's doing. I think she's just trying to make sure that she doesn't get completely fucked over, because she can tell that the boys are trying to ice her out. A lot of times she does think she's smarter than she is, but she isn't dumb. The next episode, we're gonna see that. So yeah, the other thing that stood out to me in the episode 6 preview was that whole Ken has that gleam in his eye thing. What the fuck does this man have up his sleeve? I'm fucking worried, y'all. I have no idea what he's gonna do. Oh, Greg is annoying. He used to be, like, endearing, but now he's annoying. And it also doesn't help that Nicholas Braun is allegedly a fucking weirdo. So now, like, I see him and I think about how that actor's a weirdo. I think about how I stopped liking the character, and now I'm just like, can you get off my screen, please? But despite all that, I do think he will be kind of important, because also in the most recent episode, we saw Kendall using him as a mouthpiece, which I do think is smart. So I do think he will be a subtly important piece that people will overlook. Probably Shiv, honestly, because that is one of her issues. She tends to overlook people, and it will come back to bite her in the ass. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the season so far. It's It's honestly so fucking good. But yeah, tell me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think the Gojo's deal is gonna go through. I don't think it is. I still think Kendall's gonna try with everything he has to tank it. Tell me if you think that Shiv's gonna keep the baby. Tell me if you think that her and Tom are gonna get back together. The jury's still out on that for me. I'm the jury. Because I'm not sure yet. But it'd be funny if they did.